Hey there, Smite fans, and welcome back to a different kind of prediction video. So normally I do Pro League. This time I'm going to be covering the Console League. I watched a few games last week, and I figured that on the season ticket, might as well go ahead and put some prediction videos up for the people who want to discuss it and for the people who don't really care to watch these games anyway. I took an interest in these games because my friend Tiger, who I've casted with tons of times, was going to be casting at high res for these games, so I wanted to watch him to give her a little bit of support, and I ended up actually getting drawn into the games and really enjoying it and looking at the talent of these players. And I had a little bit of experience with some of the Xbox clients. I've casted for an Xbox tournament, and I have also done scouting for Tier Monster for the Xbox side of things, but it just never really was something that stuck with me. I've played it on my Xbox One, but I've always preferred to play on my PC. Obviously, I've just loved it. It's pretty much where I started. So trying to transition to the console was a little bit off-putting for me, and I never really got into it. But as it stands going into these games, into these matches, and looking at these teams, this week I feel like is another little spot for these teams to get situated. This is the second week that they will be in playing, and I feel like they're still a little bit working on it, although some of these teams have definitely defined themselves already, and I feel like we're going to be seeing them as the top pretty much throughout the entire split, and we'll get into that as we get to those teams. But we're going to be starting out with Kingdom versus Eager. Kingdom Esports and Eager both sitting at the bottom of the ladder here. They both got 2-0'd last week in the only matches they played. Eager was beaten out by Most Wanted. Kingdom was beaten out by Elevated. And we're actually going to see those two teams play later, but both Eager and Kingdom had their own issues. There were plenty of things that they need to work on, plenty of things they can fix. And honestly, neither of the teams had very strong planning phases throughout the game. So there were a lot of portions of this match that they played, both of them, last week, where it kind of felt like they were lost. Like they didn't know exactly what they wanted to get at the time they were doing it. They'd kind of wander around in the jungle. They wouldn't really have a direction they were going for. And because of that, I feel like both of these teams are going to drop a game. I feel like it's going to come out as a split. They're both sitting pretty much in the same area right now. A little bit of work. I think these teams can be some pretty strong contenders for first place, maybe second, maybe third, depending on how hard they go for it. But for right now, it is pretty much sitting in a scenario that I think they're going to split down the middle. For Kingdom, again, coming back to play against Soar this time, Soar was also 2-0'd in this. There were three teams that just got completely 2-0'd last week, and Soar was in it with Kingdom and Eager, but Soar was 2-0'd by the current number 1 seed Aware, and they played really well against them. There were a lot of things that they could have done. A few slip-ups, and Aware just capitalized on it. It wasn't so much that Soar played badly as much that Aware played amazingly. Because of that, and because of the way Kingdom played last week, I feel like Soar is going to be able to take this in a relatively easy 2-0. They might get some hiccups from Kingdom, and I feel like a lot of those will be in the early game. Kingdom may even be able to come out and take a game, but I feel like it's much more likely that they will lose. They tend to have this, I want to say, like floating of the mind as they get to the later portions of the game. Like they're not entirely sure what exactly the calls need to be made, and I feel like that just comes with practice. Soar seems to have a lot of that right now, and I feel like they're going to be able to push themselves to victory because of it. And the next match is Most Wanted versus Elevate. Both of these teams, again, sitting kind of on the same level. They were both able to 2-0 other teams last week, but those two teams were Eager and Kingdom, who more or less played on the same level. And I feel like, again, just going off of this last week, these teams looked to be about the same. I feel like it's going to split because I feel like they're both going to be able to take certain wins. They're both going to be able to capitalize on certain situations, but they didn't seem to be as strong as they could be, and because of that, I feel like it's just going to split down the middle, both of them being able to take one off of the other because neither team is really good enough to take two off of the other. And then coming in for their second game of the week, Elevate will be playing this time, though, against Aware, and this one I have no doubt in my mind. This will be an easy 2-0 for Aware Gaming. The way they played last week was just lights out, and because of that, I'm going to have to give it to them. It's just Elevate, while they did play well, and they might come back with this week with a little bit of a stronger persona, but if they played the way that they did last week with the way that Aware played last week, it's not going to be any doubt in my mind. An easy 2-0 for Aware. And that was day one. Going into day two, you'll see we actually only have two games, and this is going to be the EU side of things. The very first one is going to be probably the most interesting match of the week. No doubt in my mind that this one's going to be great to watch. And even if you don't like consoles, I recommend you watch this one because these teams are really good. And that is Rival versus Cyclone GG. So a lot of people know Cyclone GG from the SPL. They just qualified in. And Rival has actually been around in the Xbox scene for Smite for a little bit now. and they've been playing pretty well, and I was excited because last week they played and it was insane. This week they have a little bit more of a competition. So last week they played Retribution, and Retribution played relatively well, but Rival made them look like like a new team. The Cyclone was able to beat out Excellence, and they made Excellence look like they had never really been in the competitive scene, whereas when it came down to it, they just, both these teams played really well. And this week they're going to be playing against each other, and this is kind of going to be what finalizes where they sit. I think these teams are going to split. I think they're both at the same level right now, but I think they're at a much higher level than the other teams. I think the standings in EU right now, I feel, are probably Rival, Cyclone, Retribution, Excellence, but I think that putting Rival and Cyclone in a list with each other is kind of difficult, just because when you look at the two playing, I feel like it's just different scenarios. I feel like they have different talents for this game, and because of that, I'm going to have to give this one as a split. I feel like Cyclone's probably going to come out and surprise Rival, and I feel like Rival's going to slightly underestimate it and also just not be able to cope with the kind of strategies that we see come out of Cyclone. And for the next game, and the last game of the week, Retribution versus Excellence. This one has no doubt in my mind. It is going to be Retribution as an easy 2-0. Excellence they played okay, but like I said, Cyclone made them look kind of like they were new to the competitive scene, and honestly, Retribution, they were pretty close with Rival. Rival was able to take a steady lead in their games last week as they played. Retribution played well, they just had to play from behind. But I don't think Excellence is going to be able to put them in that kind of scenario. I think they're going to be ahead the entire time against Excellence, and because of that, I think they're going to be able to take that in a relatively easy 2-0. So going down, again, just for the picks for this week, there are only 6 games, so it should go by fast. It'll be a 1-1 split between Kingdom and Eager, a 2-0 in favor of Soar, 1-1 between Most Wanted and Elevate, and Aware taking 2 games off of Elevate. Moving into EU, it'll be Rival versus Cyclone as a 1-1 split, and Retribution versus Excellence will be a 2-0 in favor of Retribution. Now, this video is a little bit shorter. Obviously, there are much less games to cover than SPL videos, but as it stands, as always, guys, thank you for watching. Later this week, my SPL prediction video will come out. This one should be coming out on Sunday, the day before the SCL starts, so it should give people ample time to either complain, to argue, to give me points that I maybe didn't think about, because, again, I am breaking into this scene, so there's not as much for me to talk about here. But as it stands, thank you guys, as always, for watching this video, and I will talk to you next week in another prediction video.